Note the disclaimer.
Let it go, let it go.
Sometimes a film will hit the cinema and it will do well. And I mean really well. These ridiculously popular films that earn enough money to buy a country all say something about our society. Sometimes it can say something beautiful. Sometimes I'd rather not overanalyze it. So today, we're going to look at the top 6 most successful films of all time.
Never bothered me anyway.
Today, I'm fortunate enough to be assisted by Animetist again, who will help give us a second perspective on these films. Thanks for the help, Animetist.
Always a pleasure to work with you, Strider. Let's roll up our sleeves and check these movies out.
Number 6. Transformers: Dark of the Moon. $1.1 billion. One thing you can guarantee.
What? I can't hear you.
The one thing you can guarantee.
What?
The one thing you can guarantee with Michael Bay movies is plenty of loud, seizure-inducing explosions.
And that all of these explosions will continue for 2.5 hours.
This is the 6th highest grossing film of all time. Over $1 billion worth of people say it's a great movie.
Critics will tell you that it's an injustice that this film has made over $1 billion with its 4th sequel close behind. I honestly don't understand.
The one thing I have to know is just why?
Perhaps the same reason why people often choose a Happy Meal over a home-cooked one. It was a flashy, simple action film that appealed to a wide audience when nothing better was available. Let's not forget the average person's attention span here.
Despite how wrong it feels to see movies like this easily outsell movies like The Dark Knight, the worst thing we can do is give it more attention.
I admit I enjoyed the first Transformers movie. I went in with an open mind, believing from the very start that it was loosely related to the cartoon series. But one movie's enough. That's where it should have ended.
Well, that has been the main complaint from critics, that they're all just the same movie repeated 4 times now. But hey, perhaps if we ignore it, it will go away.
With the 5th movie planned, it's looking less and less likely.
I see your point. Number 5. Frozen. $1.27 billion.
It's been described as the best Disney movie made since Beauty and the Beast. Some people even claim it to be the best Disney Pixar movie ever made.
Honestly, I was blown away the first time I saw this one in theaters. I actually couldn't find anything wrong with it. The characters were likable, the scenery was stunning, and unlike other Disney films, the songs didn't feel forced.
It took me a while to appreciate Olaf. He seemed like an annoying, useless character, one of those forgettable roles that you leave the movie not thinking about. But after a few hundred rewatches of the movie, I warmed up to the pointless snowman.
Olaf was interesting, as I think if he had stayed on screen a second longer, he would have outstayed his welcome. And I think audiences would have hated him. But he was on screen just long enough to still be charming and funny without getting aggravating. And that's what I enjoy about Frozen. Every character is likable. Even though Elsa's technically the villain, you can relate to her. In fact, she's the fan-favorite princess.
The song certainly went viral. Let It Go is now easily one of the most popular songs in the world. It's been sung and enjoyed in 45 different languages. While the song Love is an Open Door was the first Disney duet between a villain and a hero, it was also widely enjoyed by couples, and even parents and their children when recreating it.
I want to criticize Frozen, but I can't pick anything wrong with this film. It's actually a personal favorite of mine. My only real complaint was the ending felt a little rushed.
Yes, it was originally based off the story The Ice Queen, but since the song Let It Go was made, the whole storyline was changed. It ended with the princess not needing a prince to save her for once, and that sparked a hell of a lot of fans.
Honestly, Frozen brought me right back to that feeling of wonder and joy you get from Disney films when you're a kid. And for reviving that feeling in so many children and adults alike, I think it definitely deserved 5th place. Number 4. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2. $1.34 billion.
2011. It was not the best year for movies. We're talking Hangover, Transformers 3, Twilight Breaking Dawn. Yeesh, yeah, they were all sitting at the top of the box office, but fortunately, and not surprisingly, the Deathly Hallows Part 2 dwarfed all of them in sales.
If you grew up with Harry Potter movies like we did, you know just how many of us felt connected to Harry and the other characters by the end. From when we first saw Harry face Voldemort in Philosopher's Stone, we felt connected to Harry and his journey, and this is what it all led up to.
Child actors can sometimes have poor careers and turn out to be not so great in their adult years. Name drop, Macaulay Culkin. But to see how well Emma Watson is doing for herself, as well as the numerous movies that Daniel Radcliffe have been a part of, show us there's still hope for child actors out there. With our beloved heroes in the movie, many people commented that Harry was the most boring character and that Hermione was the one who took the spotlight in the end.
I assumed Harry was the most boring because the audience was meant to relate to him. Harry is the blank slate, interacting with Hogwarts.
The actors are the same age as us, so our generation was pretty inspired by the movies. We grew up while watching them grow up.
And that's what made it even more tragic to see the series finally disappear. There's been nothing like Harry Potter since. And I think after 15 years in planning, Deathly Hallows certainly deserved spot 4. Number 3. The Avengers. $1,500,000,000. Boy oh boy, does Disney own everything now. Technically, Iron Man 3 beats Transformers by a couple of $100 million, so Disney owns 3 of the 6 highest grossing films of all time. But their greatest success story will go down in history as Avengers.
Marvel has dominated the screens for a while, but especially in the last couple of years with its tales of comic superheroes in action. When out with friends, a Marvel movie is usually a safe bet for some good entertainment.
Both critics and viewers loved this movie. It was funny, it had very likable characters whom we all already knew, and the action scenes were spectacular.
Some people will argue that the movie appeared to be an Iron Man 4, with Tony Stark always one-upping everyone, even though he doesn't really have a superpower, just a super suit.
Wait, hold on. How is this now about me?
I'm sorry, isn't everything?
The characters clashed as they were supposed to, and it was all unorganized mayhem.
Somehow, though, they just made that mayhem so fascinating to watch. The chemistry between the characters just seems so real and relatable, despite them being superheroes. With Avengers 2 on the way in May 2015, I think we can take a guess what will soon be the new highest grossing film of all time. I predict Avengers 2 will surpass the top 2 on this list. Until then, Avengers easily makes place 3.
We won.
All right, hey. All right, good job, guys.
Number 2. Titanic, $2.18 billion.
Until James Cameron's most recent movie, this sat proudly as the highest box office movie for 12 years. I'm not surprised, as this romance story was based on the real-life tragic event of the sinking of the Titanic. And, if that wasn't enough, the movie was coupled with what is now one of the most well-known love songs of all time. Take it away, Celine Dion!
The only real words I can use to describe Titanic is massive scale. There's just something absolutely gigantic in the scale of all of James Cameron's movies.
This film gives us a haunting reenactment of the unfortunate event that occurred in April 1912.
And that's exactly it. There's something spookily real about this film. I actually think Titanic deserves the number 2 spot. While certainly not the greatest movie ever made, it is a movie that's stuck in my head since I saw it at 8 years old, just by how spookily real it felt. It's a movie that has become an unforgettable part of cinema history.
We have dressed in our best and are prepared to go down as gentlemen. But we would like a brandy.
And the number 1 most successful film of all time is Avatar, $2.78 billion.
In the end, Avatar won out by $600 million over Titanic. Avatar grossed at an incredible $2.7 billion. Billion? Come on, you can spare 1,000. 100? No? Guys?
He could at least refund our movie tickets. That's $15 I could have spent on a haircut.
The movie was praised for the most realistic 3D animation created to date.
It was a fantasy sci-fi epic of unbelievable proportions, with a $250 million budget, Yet somehow it manages to be the most dull cinema experiences I've had this year. There's a very heavy-handed pro-environmental message behind it. And when I say heavy-handed environmental message, I mean so heavy it makes Captain Planet look pro-pollution. Evil white man.
Oh, come on.
Wait, hold on a second, I'm not done yet. Evil white man. Evil white man.
Oh, come on. It wasn't the message that...
Ow.
It wasn't the message that audiences loved, it was the effects that blew us away. Yeah, the story was pretty cliche, but what does that matter when there's some pretty luminescent forests, and not to mention explosions!
I agree, it is eye-poppingly beautiful, but when you look behind the endless CG budget and massive size, I just couldn't get invested in any of the characters. So when a tragic scene came up, I barely noticed.
Yeah, it wasn't everyone's cup of tea. I admit it took me a few watches to enjoy it too. As you say, it was probably because of the general lack of anything relatable with the characters. They were all pretty bland with the characteristics of a potato.
And that's the problem. Every character just has this potato brand blandness to me. Sully, the main character, is a snore to watch. Apart from being handicapped, he is just a cliched badass American soldier. He speaks in that typical gravelly monotone we've come to expect of action movies.
Let's get it straight up front. I don't want your pity.
We know exactly what he's going to do before he's even done it.
Well, the movie is an incredible visual experience like no other, but don't go in expecting deep engaging characters or a unique storyline.
That's really what I expected, though. I mean, the most successful movie of all time? I went in thinking this movie would be the greatest existential, heartbreaking masterpiece ever put to film. But instead, I got a pretentious film that spent 2 hours trying to wow me with impressive CG.
Audiences claimed it had an enchanting feel to it. Maybe that was part of its success. I admit it's no Godfather or Fifth Element, but it certainly has its place in movie history.
If these movies have shown us anything, it's that sometimes audiences just want a fun time. And what's wrong with that? Cinemas are built around the premise of having a fun time with your friends. So it's not that surprising that the most successful film is a super visual popcorn flick.
Well, I think at least 4 of the top 6 have some substance. Avengers, Titanic, Deathly Hallows, and Frozen. They were all solid films. Behind the huge budget and expensive visuals, there's a deep and well thought out story with each of them.
Well, I can agree on that. Whether you like your Citizen Kanes or Transformers movies, a box office hit should please both audiences for different reasons. And for the most part, they always have.
Let's hope there's plenty more in the future. This has been Animetist.
And this has been Strider.
Thanks for watching.
And I'll see you next time.